My name is Rubina Sharma Mohan. I've been teaching FSL for 20 years with the York Region District School Board. During my time with the board, I have had different roles, primarily an FSL secondary teacher in both core and French immersion classes, grade 9 to 12. I've been department head now at 3 different schools. It's been a privilege to be a leader in FSL in my board. I'm a co-founder of the FSLDisrupt.org knowledge mobilization website project. This is a project that came out of the pandemic, came out of a professional learning network of like-minded FSL teachers who believe that FSL texts often lack diversity, that FSL classrooms often are spaces where diverse students with different identities don't often feel included or represented in the material that is being offered as teaching material for FSL. And so finding like-minded teachers who wanted to, as we say, disrupt the canonical texts that have been used for far too long, in my opinion, in FSL was amazing to have my voice join a chorus of teachers who demanded change. I think that technology-enhanced classrooms or blended learning environments can be tools to support equitable access to knowledge. When knowledge is gate-kept or in the possession of the teacher and not shared with students, not digitized or shared on a platform that allows students to have access and are able to individualize their learning, we're really missing an opportunity to differentiate process of learning for our students. And so I think that technology can be an amazing tool to empower students, to engage them, and also to create more autonomous learners who can identify their strengths and weaknesses, use the material curated by the expert, who is the FSL teacher, at their language level in order for students to take on the responsibility of their own learning, to be lifelong learners who are constantly resetting goals for improvement. For me, one of the quotes that I think about in FSL is that relevance drives out resistance. That's the idea that if you don't see yourself reflected, your identity, your lived experience reflected in the materials that the teacher is selecting in order to teach the language, you will disengage. As someone who grew up, born and raised in Toronto, who went through the French immersion program, I can speak to the lack of diversity in the resources. I think things are changing. I think people are becoming more aware, and more than awareness, they're taking action. And that's where the FSL Disrupt project in particular works really well with the idea of using technology, using social networks and media to connect teachers, to share ideas, to share resources to support students so that we can create more culturally responsive, reflective learning environments for our students. So I've heard that technology is a fad. This too shall pass. There have been so many movements in education. I don't think this is a fad. I think technology is here to stay. For many teachers, their first foray into exploring tech-enhanced learning, unfortunately, was associated with a global pandemic. But I think there was great learning there. There was opportunity to explore, like we never had before, tech tools to engage students, digital resources that we could use and differentiate based on our students' needs and readiness to learn, based on their interests, and we don't want to lose that learning. The idea that the pandemic is over and we're going to go back to pen and paper learning, I don't think speaks to the needs of 21st century learners. I think our learners demand more engagement, more autonomy, more choice, and their voices should be elevated in the learning experience. What this necessitates, I think, is a little bit of sharing of power in the classroom. The holder of the knowledge cannot be simply the teacher at all times. We have to invite students into knowledge building in a shared model. When we think about the pace of innovation, when we think about the fact that the iPad, I believe, was invented in like 2010, that wasn't that long ago, and that we have now AI that can write full essays for us and responses. How do these technologies, these emerging technologies, these fast-paced, innovative technologies, how do they change the role of the teacher in the classroom? How do they reimagine or force us to reimagine what teaching and learning is? I think those are all questions that we have to collectively, as FSL educators, really look at and think about, are we too focused perhaps on content? And do we need to shift our focus to context? How is the language being used? For what communicative purpose? And how can tech enhance that communication and that collaboration in the classroom?